Welcome! We're going to make a little lemon today for our cat friends. You need some yarn, a G-hook, some scissors. If you want to follow along, I've got a collection of cat toy patterns available on Amazon. I'll link that below. We're going to get started with a magic circle. I like to start with a little untied slip knot. I take my hook in through the front of that loop and then I chain two to make my magic circle. Once you have that done, to begin, we're going to make 6 single crochets into that loop. So we're taking our hook, putting it through the magic circle. We're going to wrap our yarn around the hook, pull it up, wrap it again, and pull it through the last 2 loops on the hook. We're going to keep going. Once we have our 6 single crochets in that magic circle, we're going to find the shorter tail, not the side we're working on, the other side. We're going to give it a pull. That's going to close up that little circle. And we're going to slip stitch into that very first stitch. So we're going through both top loops there, wrapping the yarn, pulling it through the stitch we were just working. So now we have a little teeny tiny circle of 6. We're going to chain 1. And we'll do the same thing again. We're going to do 6 single crochets. We're making a lemon, so we want those little pokey outy bits on either side here. And if you want to do a lime, you could always use green yarn instead of yellow, or if you want, I don't know, a pink lemon or purple lemon, blue lemon, whatever color lemons you like, fine with me. Going through those 2 top loops as we single crochet. We want to make sure we get them both. Once we have all 6 done, we'll be back at the beginning of that circle. And then from there, we're just gonna find that very first stitch again. And then maybe if you'd like, you can pull that tail tight. I like to make a little knot with it on the inside of the toy so the cats are less likely to be able to pull it out and play with it or chew on it or anything like that. So I just take my tapestry needle and I'll thread that short end through. And then just kind of anywhere in that first little circle, I'll pull up one side of a stitch and just make a little simple knot there. Pulling that as tightly as I can once I've got that knot through. And then I just leave that whole tail in there. And we'll keep going with our little single crochets around the top. Again, we're just finding that first stitch, making sure we're nice and round here. Gonna make it a little easier to find the beginning. Taking that hook through the first 2, and we'll slip stitch in there. And we're gonna chain 1, and we're gonna do 2 single crochets in each stitch around here. So we're increasing our stitches, going back into that same hole, wrap the yarn, pull it up, wrap it, pull it through both. Now we have 2 single crochets in that stitch. We're going to do the same thing here. Going in again. We're going to keep increasing each stitch around. So by the time we get to the end of this round, we should have 12 stitches in total for our little lemon here. And we just keep going, working 1, and then going back into that same hole. There we go. We got 2 stitches there. And repeating in each stitch. Going into that last stitch there, wrap, pull it through, wrap, do it again. And then we find that very first stitch of our round, and we're going to slip stitch there. We want to make sure these are nice and tight so nothing falls out of our toy. Our cat can't get anything out. Chain 1. We got another increase row here. We're going to go 1 single crochet in that first stitch. And then we're going to do 2 in the next stitch. So again, we're going through both of those top loops. We're not going to miss either of them. Wrapping and pulling through. Just 1 single crochet here. 2 in the next one. And we'll continue in this pattern for this whole round. So we'll go 1 and then 2, and at the end of the round we'll have 18. Once you get to the end there, you're going to find that first stitch, digging that hook in there. We're going to slip stitch that round closed nice and tight, chain 1. This is our last increase round. We're going to chain, or sorry, 1 single crochet and 1 more single crochet. And then in that next stitch, we'll do an increase. So we're going to have 2 single crochets and that third stitch. Going into that same hole again. And we're going to do the same thing all the way to the end. We're going to go 1, 1, and then 2 stitches into the next stitch. So single, single, and then 2 single crochet in the next one. When we get to the end of this row, we should have 24 stitches all the way around. That's going to be our main count for the body of our lemon here. So we'll keep going to the end. We'll find that first stitch. We're going to slip stitch in there, making sure we get both top loops. And we'll chain 1. And we're going to do just a straight row for rows 6 through 11 here. So we're just going to go into that first stitch, single crochet, and we're doing 1 single crochet in each stitch. So we should be staying at a 24 count for our stitches for each of these next bunch of rows here. Going in, wrap the yarn, pull it up, wrap the yarn, pull through both, again and again until you get back to the beginning here. Just a plain, simple row here, nothing fancy. You can be fancy if you want to, but this row is just plain. Now, if you've got a kitty cat that likes catnip, or maybe you like to try valerian root, that would be a good thing to add in here. I have a lot of people ask me about bells in here, but we put stuffing into these kinds of toys, so you can't really hear the bells jingle that much. So I prefer to just drug my cats. They like it. They don't seem to mind. We just had a little feisty foster kitty here that really loved the valerian root and the catnip. She wouldn't let us touch her, but she was very sweet and very pretty. Was our shortest foster. She was the spiciest cat we've ever had and got adopted in less than a week. Bless her little furry heart. Keep going. We're almost back around to the beginning. Single crochet. Keep going with that single crochet each stitch. And once we're back at the beginning of that round, just like with all the other ones, we'll find our first stitch, slip stitch into there, and we'll keep working those plain rows until you have 11 rows total. So you're going to keep going, chain 1, single crochet all the way around. That's what the inside will look like, what the outside will look like. Now we've got all those plain rows done. We're going to start our decrease rows here. So we'll slip stitch into that very first one again, nice and tight. It also helps kind of camouflage that slip stitch row. I know a lot of people like to work in a spiral, but I hate that because I don't have the patience to count. If I put my crochet down and I come back, I will have absolutely no idea where I am in a pattern without that little slip stitch line in there. And I promise you, your cats won't mind if they can see that. So we're gonna single crochet 1, single crochet 1 more. Then we're gonna start to decrease. So in those next 2 stitches, we're gonna grab just the front loop. So grab that front loop and then go right into that front loop next. So it's a little tricky, but you can do it, I promise. And then we're gonna wrap that yarn, pull it through both, wrap and pull through those last 2. So we'll do that again. We're gonna single crochet 1 and that next stitch, and then single crochet 1 more time, And those next 2 stitches will be that single crochet decrease. So we're going to go through just the first loop of each of those stitches, wrap that yarn, pull it through both of those, wrap and pull through those remaining loops on your hook there. So it's 2 single crochets, 1 in each of the next stitches, and then 2 single crochets crocheted together. And if you have a different method you prefer to do for your decreases, that's absolutely okay with me. You don't have to do it my way. There's plenty of ways out there that you could decrease those stitches here. I like this one because it's a little more camouflaged when your toy is done, but if that's not comfortable for your hands or your brain, that's totally okay. Once we get to the end of that decrease row, we're going to go ahead, find that first stitch in that round, and we'll slip stitch right into there, making sure it's nice and tight, and we'll chain 1. All right, our next decrease row, we're going to single crochet 1, maybe add some catnip as I have here. And on the next 2 stitches, we're going to decrease again. So we're going through just the first 2 loops, the first 2 front loops there, yep, and here, and we're going to wrap, pull through both of those front loops, wrap, and pull through those remaining loops. And again, we're just going to do 1 single crochet, followed by 1 single crochet decrease. So those next 2 stitches get worked together. Front loop and front loop next door. Wrap the yarn, pull them through, wrap that yarn, and pull it through the last 2 loops on your hook. We're going to keep going all the way to the end of that row, that same pattern, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet decrease, excuse me. And then once we're here, before we slip stitch so that hole's a little bit more open, I'm going to grab some stuffing. I like to just sort of like fluff it up. It makes it a little easier to get it all in there. And you're just going to use as much stuffing as your little heart desires. I like my toys to be a little bit stiffer. I feel like it's easier for my cat that just likes to roll things around. He can roll them around a little bit more easily if they're a little bit more full. But if you've got a cat that likes to squish things, maybe a little less stuffing might be their preference. But whatever you feel like, maybe you just don't have that much stuffing, that's okay. And you don't have to use polyfill if you like to use scraps of fabric or scraps of other yarns, things like that. Whatever you like. Or you could even use like the crinkly paper. A lot of cats really like that also. Once you've got all your stuffing in there, you just want to make sure that it's not in the way of your stitches. We still have a couple more rows to go after this. Just packing it in. Check the shape as you go also. I'm gonna give it a little squish if you want. You can start to see that it's really looking like a lemon now. I'm gonna add just a little bit more before we finish this one off. And tucking in there. And like I said, this could be a lime, could be any color you want. Next week we'll be working on some eggs, and those could be also any color you want. Easter is right around the corner if your cats celebrate Easter. So once you've got all that in there, we're going to grab our hook again. And now we can slip stitch that last row to close up that hole there. And we've got one more decrease row before the end. Make sure you pull that real tight, especially with all that stuffing in there. Might try to get in your way. Chain 1. And we're going to decrease every stitch. So every stitch will be a decrease stitch. So you go through those first 2 and pull them on up there. And then we're going to do the same thing. Go through those first 2 loops. So there's no plain single crochet. It's all decrease stitches until you're back to having just 6 stitches in that round. We'll continue again. Just those first 2 loops of those 2 next stitches, or however you like to decrease. Just working our way back to only having 6 stitches. Looking out for that polyfill. Sometimes it can get caught up in the yarn here. Just kind of give them a little poke down anytime you might need to. And we're coming back around. We got one more here. Once we've made it back to where we only have 6 stitches, we're going to slip stitch into that first one, making sure we don't accidentally pull up any polyfill. We'll chain 1. This gets a little tricky because that little hole there is pretty tight now. We're going to single crochet 1 single crochet into each. So we're just doing a plain row of 6 single crochet stitches. So just a single stitch here. Keep going all the way until you're back at the beginning of that row. Nice short one. Just being careful not to catch anything else as you push that hook through. A little easy to get caught up on the other side of that lemon. And once we've made it back to the beginning of the row, we'll slip stitch into that very first stitch. And then from there, we're going to cut ourselves a nice long tail. Once you've got your nice long tail, we're going to tie off that knot that's left. So we're just going to wrap that yarn around the hook and pull it through that loop, and we're going to pull it tight. You'll need your tapestry needle again here. We're just threading the rest of that yarn onto that tapestry needle. Once you've got that done, we're going to take our needle and we're going to weave the remaining yarn through those stitches. So going in the first one, out the next. We're going to pull that through enough to go onto the next 2. So we're going to go in that 3rd stitch, out that 4th stitch. And we're going to do that one more time, going in that 5th stitch and out the 6th. And once you got them all through there, we're going to give that yarn a nice big pull, getting the top of that as closed as you can, and then finding just one little loop of whatever stitch is close by. We're going to tie it off, making a knot there. We're going to take that knot, we're going to make it as tight as we possibly can, and then right wherever that lays flattest, we're going to put that tapestry needle into the toy. And we're going to try to get it as low as we can. We're going to pull it through the other side. Pulling on that tail until it comes all the way out. We're going to tug just a little bit so it stays inside. And then snip the rest of that off. And the rest of that tail is going to stay right inside your toy. So now we've got a little lemon for our little cats to enjoy. I'm going to give mine to the foster cat. I filmed this before we got her to her new owner. Here she is. That's Feet. She was so pretty. She wouldn't let us touch her, but she was the sweetest little girl. Thank you for joining me. I hope your cats enjoy their lemons. Goodbye.